Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Alrighty, well, go ahead and get started. Well, thank you again for taking time to join us today at our Best of Showcase. My name is Alexis Foley, and I am an Educational Program Coordinator with the Cool Y, and we're so happy to have you here with us today. I am going to go ahead and introduce our speaker, who is from the Aimho region. Jolie Strickland is a community director with University Housing at Arizona State University. She completed her MA in Educational Leadership at the University of Central Florida, where she was a graduate coordinator of residence life and education. She completed a BA in theater with a focus in secondary education at ASU and also seeks to bring the lessons and skills she learned in the theater classroom to the student staff population. At this time, I'd like to kick it over to Jolie.
You can tell who's in here. Hello. Thank you, everyone. And thank you so much, Alexis, for the introduction. Thank you for taking your time to being here today. I don't know what time it is for you. It's first thing 9 a.m. here in Arizona. But super excited to have everyone here today to talk about using improv games to boost student staff collaboration. So the title of my presentation is That Staff Meeting Was So Fun, because my hope is that after the presentation, that's what your staff is saying when you're getting them involved through these improv games. Um, so we'll go ahead and kick off. I'll introduce myself a little more. Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Jolie Strickland. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm starting my third year as a community director at ASU. And this presentation was my second time presenting at AIMHO. My reason for my topic area, as mentioned, I did study theater as my undergraduate degree and secondary education. Um, I was always very passionate about getting the lessons of theater infused into the work I'm doing in housing because that's still a big passion area for me. So super excited because it worked really well with my staff, and I'm excited to be able to share it with all of you here today. All right, so our learning objectives for our presentation today is that you all, as participants, will be able to facilitate engaging improv games that challenge your student staff to collaborate effectively. Improv, as you might feel and as your staff might feel, can be a little bit daunting because it does involve making story up in the moment. But that's why that practicing it alongside your team really boosts that collaboration. You should also be able to articulate how these activities are tied to residence life and the work being done by your student staff. So really important with anything we do with student staff is to not only be able to participate in the activity, but to be able to articulate how it's going to boost their collaboration skills. And finally, participating in discussion around your special interests and how you can utilize them to boost collaboration. So while a broad part of what we're going to be talking about today is improv, I chose improv because that's one of my special interests, and I hope it becomes one of yours as well. However, I know you all have your own awesome special interests. So the goal of our presentation is to get you reflecting, get you thinking outside the box about what you might be able to work with your student staff. That includes things that you're excited about as well. So some session expectations. I do ask today that you do your best to be brave in the space. And we're all here to try something new and to learn. There will be moments where I do ask you all to participate. That's why we're in a true Zoom room rather than a webinar style, because the goal of this lesson is that you feel comfortable getting involved in these improvisation exercises so that you can help your staff be inspired to be involved. Be ready to answer questions, start thinking and planning activities for your staff, and to improvise. The session is very interactive. And finally, I will ask that you use the hand raise function when you're ready to participate. And I believe you have to lower your virtual hand once you've spoken or participated in the activity. So please take that time to participate and use that hand raise function, but make sure to lower it once you've participated or been called on. All right, so what you can expect for the rest of our session. So first off, I am going to talk even a little more about why improv. I know this isn't a super obvious presentation topic, but I found that it's super beneficial to the work we do with students. So I'll talk a little bit about that why. We'll talk through the rules of improv. So if you're unfamiliar with improv entirely, that is not an issue at all because we're going to talk about what the rules are and how you'll utilize them in our improv activities. We'll talk through the why of how improv improves collaboration and get y'all's insight on how you think you'll be able to apply improv when working with your staff members. Um, and then we'll do game instructions and we will do one practice activity. Obviously, a lot of improv works very well in person in the moment. However, I did student teach during 2020, 2021. So I am no stranger to doing improv in Zoom world. So it's also very fun and very effective over Zoom. So we will do some practice. And then we'll wrap up with a special interest discussion. So that's what I was talking about, where I want to really inspire all of you to think about your own special interests and put them into your work. So throughout the session, if you want to start brainstorming, a hobby of yours, maybe a club you were a part of in undergrad that you haven't thought much about recently in your professional career that really excites you and that you'd want to work on with your student staff and find a way to have an activity come from that. And then we'll wrap up with a debrief. All right, so the source for the reason behind my presentation and why I chose improv. So my current community, my staff is right there on the screen. I oversee 20 community assistants, and our community is made up of many smaller, spread out buildings. So rather than like one big building, many floors, we have a lot of space we're working with, and our buildings are spread out. Amongst a lot of areas. So, and then the other piece is the student population that we work with. We do primarily work with first year business students. So all of my staff members, for the most part, are business students as well. So they have that shared college among them. So, what inspired me to get involved with improv is that I found that my CA staff was super focused and really exceeded administratively from the start. I didn't have to get them going in that area. They were business students who were very used to getting things done, remaining accountable. They're all in internships. But I did find that they weren't collaborating or communicating how I expected, maybe in ways that I had seen my past staffs communicate and collaborate previously. So I started brainstorming what I thought we could do to boost that collaboration among them. And that was when I started thinking about my undergrad and how I had built collaboration among some of my teams in my classes, and that was using improv. So and thinking about what I could try, the idea to incorporate improv came, like I mentioned, from my own personal experience. So, one thing that I've been involved with, but also that my staff had always engaged with really effectively, was our behind closed doors activities. If you're not familiar, behind closed doors is usually a training activity that asks our student staff to put themselves into situations through role play and activity that they might encounter in the student staff position. So they they always really engaged very highly with behind closed doors, and I realized that's something that we should continue to infuse throughout the year of like putting what they were doing into action, but also just getting them to act things out together and kind of push them outside of their comfort zones in that way. And of course, my theater education background was a big reason for knowing that I had the tools and the prep to get this going with my student staff. The foundation of improv really is collaboration. That's completely what it's built around. And I also figured that at the very least, this would give the staff the opportunity to leave that comfort zone, try something new. At its core, it's a fun activity at a staff meeting, if nothing else, but it will bring a lot more to your teams in my experience. So I figured, why not? Let's try it. Um, so defining improv. If you're not familiar, improv is a form of theater where actors perform a story that is totally unplanned and unscripted. So if you ever go to an improv show or if you've heard of actors involved with improv, they're going out and they have done no prep work beyond practice, but going out and creating a story in the moment. The dialogue, action, story, and characters are created collaboratively by the actors. Um, so this is a great opportunity for your staff to practice thinking of something in the moment without necessarily having that prep work, which we all know they do a lot of in different areas of their roles. So a little bit of the history of Yes and we won't spend too much time with the history lesson, but I think it's exciting background to have. The aim of Yes and, which is one of the core rules of improv, is an approach where you're asked to add and carry forward and develop someone's suggestion. So at its core, Yes and is someone shares something in the space, and rather than denying it or negating it, you accept what they're sharing with you, and you add additional information. So this concept came up in the 1950s. The Compass Players are like a historic improvisation group, and they developed the kitchen rules. They developed these rules basically sitting around a kitchen table and talking about what rules and what expectations around their improv that they could set to make sure their scenes worked every time. They realized that their scenes always worked better when they said yes to each other's ideas and then added new information to the scene. All right. So the rules of improv. While I go over these, I want you to start thinking about how these rules of improv apply to the work that you do. Whatever supervisory level you're on, how do you feel that the rules of improv could apply to working with your teams? So, like I mentioned, yes and asks you to always agree with what others are contributing to the scene and add that new information. It also asks you to embrace mistakes. So if something goes wrong during a scene, play into it and make it part of the plot. Um, and then finally, establishing a story. So adding that information that helps define the plot, the who, what, when, where, why, and how. So adding that additional information with the statements you're making. And then not a formal rule, but an expectation of improv is to follow your gut. Say the first thing that comes to mind without trying too hard to be funny, just focusing on adding that information. Um, so I'll go back to the rules in a second, but the question I have for the group, and you can feel free to use the hand raise function so I can call on you. But the question I have for the group is how can the rules of improv be applied to our work in housing and to building collaboration skills on our teams? So think about how they can be applied to our work in housing and those collaboration skills. I'm going to go back to the rules so you can view them there. But yeah, feel free to use the hand raise function, or if you'd rather put your answer in the chat, I can read it out for you. But think about how that might apply to our work. And we'll start off with Brianna. Thank you. Brianna, feel free to unmute. Oh, you can unmute you.
Hooray! I was getting an
Amazing.
alert. Okay.
No worries, you got
Um,
it.
Great. So, I would say that at least for me, I see yes and all over the place. Especially I work with a residential curriculum, and so when we're working on developing ideas and brainstorming, I need to remind all of the staff, especially my students who are primarily engineers, that brainstorming means we're just yes-anding everything and we're just putting everything on the board until we get a big chunk of ideas. And then we can filter through from there.
Yes, I love that. Yes, it's a great idea for brainstorming because I think I even run into the habit of this with like my team where we're thinking of ideas and I'm thinking too far ahead and I'm like, I don't think that would work for this reason, that reason, but the yes and principle really challenges you to take it in, consider it, add it to the idea pool, and then keep adding more information. So I love that. Thank you for sharing. All right, Lillian.
Thank you. The first thing that came to mind, for sure, also the yes, and it was mostly like on after hour situations, especially if our CAs or RAs are like working with one other person or more. It's like I would hope that they don't speak over each other, they don't contradict each other. Sure, fix mistakes as they're happening, but not in like a way that like shows the rest of the that maybe they don't know what they're doing or they don't or that they're not working as a team. So it's like they're both contributing and it's both flowing because hopefully they will know the procedures and everything, but that if correction needs to be made, like it's not done in front of the resident or in a not good way.
Yeah. No, I totally appreciate that because I completely agree. I think I've seen that with my student staff as well, where sometimes they especially if there's like a newer staff member who's still working on protocols, making decisions in the moment, there's ways to move the situation forward without blatantly telling your team members that they're wrong in front of the students they're supporting, because we're ultimately working as a team together. So helping with the yes, what they shared. And I also have this other piece that is relevant to the situation, absolutely comes up on after hours. Yes, thank you for that. I think we have a couple in the chat as well. And figure out how to, there we go. There's my chat. Oh yes. What was shared? So yes, the yes and is the big one here, taking what is shared and adding that supplemental information. Amazing. Any other ideas around any of these principles and how they apply to our work? Yes, Jesse.
Yeah. I think that especially when you were talking about the BCD situation, I am familiar with that practice. And so I think embracing mistakes is a really big one too, because especially when you're working with the student staff, I think that a lot of the times it feels like, oh, I have to have the right answer. I have to know how to react to a scenario or situation. And really, like with the peer-to-peer model, you're trying to like enable that, right? So that they feel like they can make mistakes, so they can learn through all of these other techniques of improv. And so I think like really honing in on making sure they know like it's not supposed to be this planned thing that you should have the answer for every time because that's not realistic in your everyday role. And so I think that's really important to highlight.
Yeah, I love that. Because truly a lot of the situations we end up coming to are nuanced, and we might have what we think is the answer, but the residents they throw curveballs at us every time. So practicing making a choice based on the information we have, and doing our best to resolve a situation in the moment and embracing those mistakes, especially in the space where mistakes are easy and they're not going to have a significant impact is super significant. So thank you. Amazing. Is it Lily?
Yes. Hi. I think establish a story is helpful, especially when a student is in crisis or in need of resources. RAs can help demystify what that resource is, either pulling on an example from like a friend themselves, or maybe just like on the cuff of like what could happen, and like what that support would look like.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, really practicing almost like over explaining, because that's what's gonna support our residents, support each other. It's like providing as much context as possible, especially on some of the resources we're providing. That's awesome. Thank you. All right. Any final thoughts on that? We can move along. Amazing. Um, all right. So, you all hit a lot of this on the head already, but here's which is incredible. That's what I want. this is my fun title, my fun play on words that I had to throw in here. But how improv improves collaboration. But some thoughts I have on this is that improv challenges teams to let their guards down and create something positive together. I think going through training and starting off, particularly at this time of year when our teams are still finalizing, getting to know each other, they've made it through some of the biggest hurdles of the year, but now it's time to hone in on how they collaborate with one another as they start planning programs, as they start serving on call together. And improv really challenges them to kind of let that guard down, and that way they're able to build that in a safe space. Um, Participants are challenged to agree and to add discussion rather than coming into the space with a no but attitude. We're going to talk a little bit more about the negative impacts of that no but attitude and how it can really stop collaboration in its tracks. And then participants do not have time to overanalyze what others say or overthink their own responses. A lot of time I've found that with my student staff, their time away overthinking something ends up stopping them from embracing the group work and the group think time, and they overthink it to the point that they don't participate. So putting them in these spaces where they almost have to participate is an important challenge for them. And then teams have to come up with a concept and execute it in the moment. That's what we're asking them to do on call. That's what we're asking them to do in their programming. In many different areas of the role is to think in the moment and to execute together as a team. All right. So like I mentioned, the negative impact of yes, but. So we talked about no, but that's just the straight like negating and denying. But yes, but can also have its own negative impact. So while yes, but does acknowledge their point of view, it can instantly correct it. So just saying yes, doesn't actually accept their opinion unless it's followed up by the and attitude. So yes, but accepts their point of view, but also tries to change their mind. And it seeks out flaws and faults with their opinions or their ideas. So for example, if a group of student staff is working together, planning a program, and someone has an idea for something they could buy to boost student engagement with the program, and then another staff member goes, I've tried that before. Yes, that's an idea, but it's not going to work well because it didn't work this time. That leaves that other staff member feeling like they don't want to express themselves further in those types of environments. So that yes but attitude really seeks out the flaws and faults in others' ideas. It places more value on being right, on being the one to have the idea, and it stops that collaboration. And stops the dialogue and shuts down further opportunities for sharing. It makes communication more difficult than it needs to be, and it creates an environment that excludes that innovation and new ideas. So like I was saying, student staff, and whatever staff you're working with will no longer want to communicate with one another if they feel that every time they bring up an idea, it's negated or canceled out by something that one of their peers shared. All right. And then finally, I will share about boundary setting. Because of course, with yes and, we should always discuss that you don't have to build an idea that you're not comfortable with moving forward. Yes and helps well with collaboration, but the expectation is not that our students have to say yes to everything that anyone puts on the table. We don't have to yes and anything that makes us uncomfortable because it goes against our personal values or morals. And help your student staff remember that no does mean no, and no is a powerful tool to shut things down that need to be shut down. If one of their peers is doing something that's like strictly against policy, if they're doing something that's makes them feel uncomfortable and is against them, they don't have to yes and in those situations. So always important to note that. But you've learned about it, and now I have my biggest challenge for you, is that we're going to try it the same way you're going to challenge your student staff to be brave in their spaces. We're going to try it here as a team. So the objective with this game, and this game is called Yes and, very on target. The objective is to never say no and to keep adding new information. So one person, I'll call on two people at a time to be a pair in a scene. One person will start the scene with a sentence. The sentence can be anything that sets the scene. I'll have an example on the next slide. But the first participant starts the sentence, and then the next participant will go yes and furthering the scene forward. The scene will go back and forth between the two participants, saying yes and adding further information until I eventually say cut when it seems that we're at a wrap-up point, and that will end the scene. I'll have an example for you on the next slide. I'll show it to you here. So this is one example. If the first participant said the river is full of fish, the next person could say yes, and one of them's enormous. So by discussing the size of the fish, they've added more information to the scene. Next participant says yes, and he's swimming towards us. Now we understand the size of the fish and that they're coming towards us. Yes, and he looks hungry. So now we know more about the fish's intentions, and so on and so forth. Each piece adding further information to the scene. And this one comes to a nice ending in that they're able to fly away from the problem. But however your scene wraps up is totally fine because we're practicing. Um, I know this is asking you to be brave in this space. I know from working with my middle schoolers that the push to participate can always be one of the biggest hurdles. But I do ask if you're able to use the hand raise function if you'd like to participate. And I'm going to stop sharing and just spotlight the pairs that are participating in the scene. All right. Amazing. Some hand raises. So I should be able to spotlight. Oh, might not let me spotlight. Alexis, are you able to spotlight participants?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. Could you spotlight Lily and Corey to get us started?
Yes.
Hello.
Is there a certain person that's going to start first?
Lily, why don't you kick us off and then we're from there. So thank you, Alexis.
Whoa, the rainbow over there is really beautiful.
Yes, and clouds are approaching.
Yes, and I'm allergic to rain.
Yes, and I see a big shelter over there on the right made out of wood.
Yes, and you are always there to help me when I'm down.
Yes, and I also have my own secret motives here.
Yes, and I'm really wondering what those motives are.
Yes, and I am actually planning to charge you rent because I own that shelter.
Yes, and I'm gonna leave without our friendship intact.
Yes, and you're going to leave after you stay in the shelter because it's going to rain and you're allergic.
Yes, and here's $500.
Yes, and it's starting to rain, so the $500 cash is getting wet.
Beautiful.
Yes,
Cut. Amazing. Thank
I'm so
you.
sorry about that, Lily. I apologize for charging you rent.
it's okay.
No need to apologize in the rules of improv. Amazing. Thank you both for participating first. Before we move on to the next one, first off, kudos in the chat if you can. Anything in the chat that you felt really helped with that yes and principles and any of the other principles of improv we were noticing. Some type time. I will say, one thing I noticed, is I really felt the scene was being set effectively. We learned about the shack off to the side that we were charging rent. I thought that worked well and really set the scene and added that new information with every statement. And yes, being open to the new ideas, never negating something someone else had shared, always adding information and taking on what the other person had shared in the space. So that was awesome. Yes, so Georgina, if you want to start our next one off, and then Brianna will be your partner. I should be able to spotlight the two of you. Awesome, you can get started.
Hey, the popcorn machine won't turn on.
Yes, and I'm actually a really great mechanic. I can fix this.
Yes, and I have a set of tools in the back. I'm gonna run and grab them.
Yes, and you must have this really specific tool that I need, right?
Yes, and I think an RA borrowed it, so could this other thing work instead?
Yes, and I think I might also need some chewing gum and rubber bands.
Yes, and I have two flavors, bubble mint and banana. Which gum would you like?
Oh, yes, I love banana bubble gum. And I think we should also probably invite that RA to come and join us.
Yes, and then maybe they'll bring the tool. Do we still need the rubber bands if they do?
Yes, probably, but we can readjust so that they can be bracelets instead.
Yes, and wait. Do you need this big rubber band or this little rubber band?
Yes, all of the rubber bands are absolutely essential. And um, gosh, I'm getting really hungry. I wish the popcorn machine was already fixed.
Yes, and let me give you this ball of rubber bands. It has all the sizes. And, well, it's really hot outside. Maybe if we just put the pot outside with the popcorn kernels, that will
Oh,
work?
yes, and then the sun can pop the popcorn kernels.
Yes, and our program is saved!
Amazing. What a beautiful resolution. Amazing. Thank you both. Um, all right, awesome. Yeah, kudos. Thank you for being brave. What else did we notice in the scene? Totally agree. Banana bubblegum. What a unique flavor. I love it. Um, and yes, yeah, something I noticed again is that really like sometimes the scene like took different directions, but you both followed where each other were heading really effectively, and still kind of worked together towards that resolution. So I thought that worked super well. Other thoughts about what worked well in the scene and how we really saw those rules of improv in practice. Um, and yes, back to what you were saying, Corey, as well. I see that how it forces you to kind of react quickly, and you don't have that time to necessarily build 100% confidence in your answer. But you just have to keep it going. And it helps kind of move the scene along in that way. So that's incredible. Other thoughts? Yes, I love that. Yes, you both were adding lots of new information. So you both had different things you could grab onto from each other's ideas. Worked super well. Totally agree. Awesome. I'd love to do one more round if we have two more participants. I'll give time. You've got this. If you're challenging your staff to do it, you've got it as well. We'll keep thinking about it. We'll talk about this one other comment. Um, Yeah. Oh, cool. Okay, well, welcome back to where two people play as podcast people and the audience can call in to help drive the scene. Yes, I love that. Yes, I've got a link for you all at the end of the presentation that has lots of cool ones that you can use with your team. But be creative. I love that. And I think I also really like how you're seeing like went kind of the housing direction. Because you can get them in and like really have it kind of be behind closed doors. That's where they're really in a fun way, in a comedic way, like practicing responding in those situations. So totally agree. That works super well. But great. We'll go ahead and move on. But thank you to our participants being brave in the space. Much appreciated. Great work all around. And I will go back to sharing my screen. All right. So we've tried it out. My advice in general is that with this is to challenge your students by choice or your staff members or whoever you're doing this with. Participation can look different for different people. As we found today, not everyone's going to be the first ones to jump at it, which is totally okay. It's challenging for a reason, and it forces them to build that collaboration in a way that they are not used to. So it will take some time to get them involved with it. But I'll tell you from my experience that my staff, once they saw a couple of the braver individuals take a shot at it, they felt a lot better at it. And I think starting with a lot of those lower stakes activities can work well too. One of the first ones I normally always do with a team is the one word story activity. And that's where literally all they have to do is all sit in a circle or just in a space together. And just go around and tell a story by adding one word at a time. So super low commitment. Their word is sometimes just and or or two. That kind of gets them in the habit of creating and being creative and collaborating with each other towards a common goal without as high of stakes. So that's a really good first one. That's on the link I have for you. But that's one I usually start with my team to help kind of break the ice in that way. Make sure you spend that time explaining the why. So I explained kind of the why for you all here today. But make sure that when you're getting your staff, your team prepped to participate in this, that they understand why they're doing it. Because if you don't have an arts focused group team, they might be shocked by this task that you have for them. But helping them understand the why and getting them out of their comfort zone. Mine, I can tell you, have like really engaged with it when they understood why they were doing it. And just be a prepared facilitator. So sometimes it takes like being the one to step in with them and get it going the first time. A lot of improv activities ask for locations or other suggestions from the audience. So if you're not getting much or if the scene's not moving forward, be prepared to step in and get some of those suggestions rolling. So that's some of my facilitation advice. Our next activity that we're going to be involved in, like I mentioned, and hopefully you've been thinking about your own special interests outside of improv, what you've been a part of and what you're excited about. But really the message of today's session is that your student staff, your staff you work with are going to be more engaged if they sense that you are engaged, if they sense that you're excited. I've found the best way for me to avoid burnout and get my staff seeing that I care and that I'm engaged with them is embracing my own special interests in my role and finding creative ways to utilize them in my supervision. So hopefully you've thought about it, but if not, think right now about one of your special interests, either a club you've been a part of, a hobby of yours, something you do outside of work, etc., that you wouldn't normally have thought about including in your supervision that we're going to think about right now. You'll add that special interest. We're going to use the Zoom whiteboard function, and you're going to add like Zoom sticky notes to a board. And just right now we're just putting special interests on there. So use the yellow sticky note. I'll show you in a moment where to find it. But improv is yours. Amazing. Hopefully that's why some of you are here. I will start the whiteboard. Super exciting. Hopefully, if you've never used the whiteboard function before, this is fun for you as well. But you can find the sticky notes over here on the left side. So for me, if I pulled a yellow sticky note out, my special interest today was improv. So I'm adding that here. But add your special interests. And I'll give you some time to get those added. And then as we go along, we're going to start thinking about how our special interests could be infused in our work in creative ways. So I'll give you a moment with this. Thank you all. Loving the Post-its. Loving what I'm seeing. Poetry is such a fun one. Lots of crafting, knitting, yarn crafts. Amazing. Wellness, sports. Yeah, sports is a big one. I know a lot of my peers are in sports leagues outside of work. Dungeons and Dragons hiding over there. I like it. Awesome. So keep adding your special interests. Our next step is to take some time now, both your special interests, but other people's special interests. If you could add Post-it notes close to their Post-it note with ideas for what they might be able to do with their team around their special interests and get creative. It might not be something you'd initially think you'd want to do with your team, but think about what might be possible because we're going to help each other think of ideas in this space. Love it. A book exchange. Blind date with a book. Yes, I have one of my coworkers. We talked about this together, this concept, and she's a big reader, and she's just starting a book club with her team, which she's done before. And again, I like not that book clubs are super uncommon, but they've been able to sense how excited she is about it, which helps them feel that excitement for it. So that's really the goal here. Love it. Mindfulness activities around yoga and meditation. That's a great group bonding activity around that wellness, which is great too, because we know that's something that our staff, they're busy, they're involved in many things. So getting them those spaces outside of our direct work is super exciting as well. I love duty D&D scenario. That's awesome. If you put that into practice, I want to hear about it. Amazing. Group poetry of values for the team. That's awesome. I think that's like a good alternative to like even just like like I know we do a lot of like expectation setting and value sharing at the beginning of the year, but getting creative and like making it engaging in a different way by using poetry. Super fun. And I love the crafting ones. Crafting is probably my other special interest that I like to get my staff on. So I love that. And then staff potluck or bake off. Yes. Yes. Love that one. Staff cookbook, so cute. Um, Wii Sports Night is incredible. I wish I still had my Wii. Love it. All right. Well, finish up adding things. I recommend taking a picture if you haven't already, so you can, I know I'm taking a picture so that I can infuse all this with my teams. Because I hope what you're seeing is that there's like going out of the normal is really effective for engaging your team, thinking outside the box, but it's also effective for you, because I know for me this really helps me avoid burnout, is like making each year different, getting creative, coming up with exciting activities for my team. So I will be stealing these, taking a picture, but I'll go ahead and close out the whiteboard. Thank you all for your help. Whiteboard looked great. And then I will go back to the presentation. All right. So debrief/discussion. I will ask for your participation one more time. You've all been incredible. But we've got some questions up here. I'm going to start with the first two on the left, because they're somewhat related. And we've talked about some of it already, but hopefully now that we've wrapped everything up and you've seen some example scenes, you have an even better idea of how to answer these. So the first two questions are, how can the rules of improv boost collaboration on a student staff team? And what is one issue your staff has with collaboration? And how could it be addressed using the rules of improv or an improv activity? And I'll take hand raises. And you can also feel free to put it in the chat. Yes, totally agree. Yes, I totally agree with the lots of no but and yes but in the meetings we run. I notice like some of my student staff, especially my returners, can be really bad about that. And it comes from good intentions is the thing, of wanting everyone to understand correct protocol and what's worked for them and how they've done things. But we really stop the flow of new ideas and innovation in the space when we have that no but attitude. So yes, encouraging them with the yes and the follow that gut can really address that collaboration block. That's awesome. And Corey said, issue with collaboration. Sometimes new RAs defer to the more experienced ones, like we were saying, what should I do? Instead of thinking through solutions together. That improv really relies on both parties to improvise, and helps create that shared responsibility. I love that. Yes, that really is another one of our big goals here, is that shared responsibility, that shared collaboration amongst the team so that they all have ownership for it. And if things go wrong, it goes wrong together, and they also come towards a solution together, which is very exciting. Yes, is safe and encouraged to play. Love that message. Absolutely. Awesome. And feel free to keep answering that question. And then my last question is, how can your own special interests be an effective tool in student staff collaboration? And like, why is it a good idea to infuse your own special interests in that student staff or professional staff supervision? I'll answer for me while people type. But I think like I've been mentioning, is that I feel like my staff can really tell that I care and that I'm excited about it when it's something that I'm interested in. It's something that I've done myself in the past and have good feedback for and good background knowledge of. They see that I'm excited and it makes them excited. So it's okay to do things just because you're excited about it and find the ways that it can connect to our work. So that's awesome. Yes, I love that. Helping them see that we're real people with, lives outside of this, but also really connected to our work and to them. So I appreciate that. Yes, you use poetry to write collaborative poetry as a team builder. That's awesome. Yes, the poetry gets a bad rap. Um, yeah, opening up about why and what you love about poetry helps them see more of you. I love that. Yeah, seeing you as a person, seeing you as your whole self. I really think a lot of that is like has what's built such a positive relationship between me and my team. Is that it's not just all work, no play. We get to know each other and we get to know each other and their interests. I guess another good note there is like asking them about their interests and how they would like to see those infused in our work. I think is another really strong idea. Um, but yeah, great. So as a final message, infuse what you care about into the work that you do. Um, it makes a difference. It helps your student staff see you and see their work in a different light and really boost that collaboration. I hope you had some helpful skills, some new activity ideas with your staff to get them engaged. I'll leave us off with a link to some improv games that are specifically built around collaboration. That's also the link to my LinkedIn, just if you have any follow-up questions, you can add me and message me on there. Or if you want to let me know how this works with your staff, I always really like hearing the follow-up. That's always super exciting for me. I got to hear about a lot of cool stories after I presented this at AIMHO. So feel free to add me there and let me know how it goes because I'm super excited to hear about it. But otherwise, that's all I have for all of you. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, stick around. But otherwise, we're all set. I'll hand it back to Alexis. But thank you all for your engagement today. It was awesome.
Yes, awesome, awesome. Yes, everyone, please join me in thanking Jolie for an amazing presentation. Jolie, I love how you brought all of your worlds together. I think that that's awesome. And again, I hope that made other people think about how they can bring their worlds together too. So thank you so much. Uh, we have our next showcase on September 23rd for Swakuho's best session called Icebreakers for Introverts. That's going to be at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you can find the link to that registration. I am going to put it in the chat. But other than that, we thank you all for joining us. And again, thank you so much, Jolie. We enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.